Hi, it's Julie from the PMFRC. It is so good to have everybody joining us. This is our very first Fireside Chat for 2023. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us and have that conversation with us. I have two guests with me today. Chris Quigley is the Family Transition Advisor here in Petawawa. She's going to tell you a little bit more about that role when I let her introduce herself. And also Louise Anderson, who is the Veteran Family Program Coordinator. We have had Louise join us a couple of times for these fireside chats. We started these chats as a way to connect with people through COVID. Our doors were closed and we wanted to let people know what the programs and services that were available. We found out as we went, there's a lot going on in people's lives in Petawawa, in Ottawa, no matter where you may be watching from. And we still wanted to take this opportunity to occasionally come to you about things that were new that you may be interested in checking out, that you may be interested in seeing. So we decided we were going to keep up with these fireside chats. Chris, thank you for joining us. Like I said, you were the Family Transition Advisor, and that's a relatively new position here in Petawawa. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you support, and how do you support those people?
Yep, thanks, Julie, for having me on today. And it is a brand new year. And so with that, lots of folks are having to make brand new decisions. And one of those decisions could very well be transitioning from transitioning from a CAF life into a civilian life, because your family is deciding that now is a good time to transition out of the military and do something else. And thus, my role in terms of family transition support, I operate through the Transition Center here at Garrison Petawawa for the military to civilian transition folk. And so that's a little different from those CAF members who are releasing on a medical reason. My support goes towards families who are releasing voluntarily or anything outside of a 3B or in civilian language, medical release. And so families come to me to be supported in whatever dynamic they are looking for. And as we go through our conversation today, Julie, I'll get a little bit more in detail with that.
And Louise, can you talk about what it is you do? Because it's a similar kind of role, but it's for a different group of people.
Absolutely. I'm the yin to Chris's yang. So my clientele are medically releasing CAF members, medically released veterans, and their families. I have national programs that they can access. I have my main role is enhanced information and referral services. I help them navigate the process. So it's not a one size fits all. Anytime anybody has a question, they can just come in and ask. We'll have a chat. We'll figure it out, and then we'll move on.
A couple of things I want to pick up. So for Louise, I just want to sort of clarify the fact that once a person has already gone through that medical release, they can still come back and get information and support from Louise. And it doesn't matter how long it's been since they've gotten out, right?
Yes, absolutely. It can be, they can be 80 and still come back.
And the other thing that I wanted to pick up on and just talk about is we talk about the CAF-TC, we talk about people going through the release, and oftentimes so many of these programs, there's a lot of people that the member can talk about the transition process, but really highlighting the fact that these folks are here to really support the family. Because it's not just the member is getting out of the military, and it's a change of culture, it's a change of life, it's a change of routine for them, but it's also a big change for the family. And there may be some questions that they're going to think of that they want to ask that maybe the member themselves wouldn't necessarily have thought of because they're seeing it from a different lens and they have some different concerns. So just wanted to really clarify what those roles were and let folks know that these people are there. I know, Louise, even before the person has released, if people have questions leading up to it, they can come to you and say, this might be on my radar coming through in the front. Maybe we can talk about some of the things that, some of the issues that we might be looking at in the future. Chris, we are here to talk about a new program that is starting this year. Can you sort of tell us about what the program is, why you came up with it, and who is it designed for? Who's going to benefit from it?
Sure. It's a huge piece of a transition for sure. When families are deciding that, now is the time that they want to get out of the Canadian Armed Forces and they want to do something else. And so our title for our program, and I'll get into it in a little bit, is a huge one because transition is not a posting. So when folks are posted, and it's that time of the year where folks are deciding, are they staying in Petawawa? Will they be posted to the West Coast? Will they be posted to the East Coast? That in itself is a change for sure. And yes, it does affect the entire family, but in a posting, the soldier will go to their next posting. They will connect with all of their people. They will continue to work and do their thing. And then the family, they'll figure out where the dentist is. They'll figure out, what they're going to do for the best grocery store, that sort of thing. But in a transition, everybody is getting out of the CAF, and folks are now having to realize, oh, my partner's home now all the time and not gone for so many days of the week or whatever. And so the adjustment to things like, who's going to take out the garbage? Or, oh, my partner is home now, so maybe I can start my own career. And so what happens is when a soldier decides that they're going to be leaving the CAF, they will be connecting with what is called a transition advisor, or they're going to sit on a scan seminar and those sorts of things. And so families will probably be wondering, what's happening? What are the soldiers talking about? What's my partner talking about with the transition advisor? One of the things that I really want to share is the transition advisor will introduce the family transition role when they're having conversations with the CAF members. However, the CAF member has so much to do and so much to prepare for in releasing that they may forget to mention to their family member, oh, there's a family side of the house and conversation that you can have as well. And so with my counterparts in Borden and at NCR in Ottawa, we have come up with a program on a monthly basis, and it's called just that, a transition is not a posting. And so we want to ensure that if any family members are getting ready to transition out of the CAF with the soldier, that they don't have to wait for the member to come home and say, oh yeah, I think there might be something for the family, or they weren't able to get to the scan seminar, or whatever the case may be is. They are more than welcome to come and connect with us, even if the member is thinking about transitioning, so that they can get some information about what that looks like in the bigger picture. And Julie, being on a few fireside chats with you, I'm sure you're going to put our contact information in the chat below, so you have that. But to go back and speak about the program, what we want to do is we want to invite family members who are potentially thinking about their family transitioning out of the CAF, or in the process of their family transitioning out of the CAF, to come meet with us on a monthly basis. So it'll be the last Wednesday of each month. And then what we'll do is we will rotate topics of conversation, but those topics aren't just willy-nilly selected. They're selected from the perspective of what the soldier is going to be chatting with when they speak to their transition advisor. So we call those topics domains or determinants of wellness. So what happens is we're going to go through a guided piece of information in terms of how are you doing financially? How are you doing in the employment world? How are you doing in the environmental world? So somebody might say, oh my gosh, we've never moved out of Petawawa, and now we want to go home to the East Coast because we're getting out of the military. And what does that look like, right? So some people, they need to have direction around where to go get health cards, where to have your insurance changed on your vehicle, all of that sort of stuff. Can they look for that stuff themselves? 100% they can. But when you see a transition checklist, it's huge. And so by having somebody who's in the know, and in like myself and my counterparts who are familiar with other MFRCs and other areas of Canada and actually the US, they can reach out to us, and we can be their big support, or their yellow phone book, or whatever you want to call it, to be able to recognize, oh, okay, yeah, so you are struggling a little bit with what's happening. So let me do some research for you. And yet they absolutely can do the research, but I can narrow it down to specifically what they're looking for. And so monthly then, what we want to do is be able to bring all of that information to folks who are thinking about transitioning, who are in the middle of transitioning, or at the tail end of transitioning. And so the intention for those monthly series is to drop in at any time. So for example, if a family is transitioning out and they're staying in Petawawa and they've already have their home established and things are good to go, they may not choose to come to the session that speaks of environment and housing and those kinds of things. But if a family is situated and they're saying, yeah, we're staying in Petawawa and it's my turn, it's my partner's turn now to go and start their career, and they happen to notice that we're running one of these sessions on employment, that might be their magic session to attend, because then we can talk about what a resume, some resume stuff. We can talk about where to go for resources on finding employment. We can talk about the military spousals page, all of those pieces that families may not be in the know because, number one, they may not be aware, or it's so buried in the back of their minds because they're so busy with transitioning and getting everybody settled that they just don't know where to start. So I say let the series be a starting place or a place where you land to find more information. And then ideally, as we build on these sessions, we don't want to do any of the talking at all. We want participants who've either gone through transition, in transition, or thinking about transition to come on board and say, oh, I can help you with that, or I can support you with that. So it's that peer support piece as well.
And I think it's important that a lot of times that you go to this workshop and you're talking about a broad topic, but oftentimes the important key things are like much smaller discussions once you start into that topic. I mean, you might be thinking overall, like, what house am I going to live in? Am I going to move? But then coming down to those daily routine things about how is my life going to be different when my partner is home all the time, and you're sort of talking about those little detail things. If my husband is watching, you put out the garbage now, you still will after retirement. Don't let Chris think that this is any way going to change, that there's some sort of a renegotiation. Garbage it's still going to be you. But I think those are the important conversations, right? Because you are used to things in a very certain way, or used to living your life in a certain way. And there's a lot of big changes that happen when all of a sudden someone's home more, or you're living in a different house, or you have a different job. There's some negotiations that aren't a one-day decision, but really an ongoing process. So you may take these courses now, and transition may not be from a year from now, but things are going to change as you go through. Is it a different conversation if you've got young kids versus if you're an empty nester? Like there's a lot of different factors that are going to be important. You talked about this quickly, and if you might not have missed on, how is it going to work? Is this going to be guest speakers that you have coming through? Is it discussions? Do I have to go to all of them, or?
So that's a great question. And the intention is for us to start by introducing what the program is, and then we will have the bones, I guess, for the discussions, and we want families to put the meat on it. So in other words, if families are looking to have, I don't know, I'll just pick off the top of my head, potentially a mortgage broker come in when it talks about the environmental and the home and where things are going to be, because folks who live in PMQs, one thing is for sure, you won't be able to live in a PMQ once you transition to civilian life, right? So we're going to let the tempo and the conversation of those who are participating be the guide for, are we going to continue with the conversation with just the folks on board? Or are we going to bring in the subject matter experts sort of thing? And so I guess from the perspective of starting out, myself and the two gals from Borden and NCR in Ottawa are now considered the subject matter experts, because between the three of us, we've been doing this for about 2.5 years, and we are understanding what families are looking for. We can kind of research and kind of guide folks where they need to go for simple things, not simple to the family, but simple in terms of where's the best vet, where is the best dentist who deals with children who are nervous about going to the dentist, all of those kinds of things. Like I said, you can absolutely find that information in a phone book, but we can customize it and personalize it to your situation. So the intention is for the military to civilian transition process to happen across Canada in a way that it's there, but we want to specialize and make it particular to each individual family. And sometimes there could very well be soldiers who are releasing from the CAF, and they would potentially say, oh, I don't have any family. And so the transition advisor, when they're having their interviews with these folks, will say, you just never know, you know? And then so they will still have the conversation with me, or potentially, and hopefully come into the group and realize, oh gosh, I didn't realize you could help my mother. I'm going to be going home to take care of my elderly mother. Oh, did your elderly mother have any sort of medical supports or any sort of community involvement? Oh, I have no idea. Is that a thing? Absolutely, it's a thing. Let me get connected to where you're going to be living. I will do some research for you. And I share this quite easily because I helped a young soldier who will be living with his mom to take care of her get an assessment for his mom through their community living program, so that now she has supports. He had no idea that stuff like that existed. And like he said, very understandable. I've been in the CAF for the last 8 years. I don't know how any of the civilian pieces work, right? So the intention then is come in, drop in when the session is important to you, stay for all of them so that you can transition through the process. And when the military partner is speaking of something in transition, the family member can say, oh yeah, now we're aware of that too, because we attended the session in February or March at the end of the month, kind of thing.
Now, Louise, you, I know that you have deals specifically with medically transitioning members, and in some cases, those issues are unique. It's a different set of circumstances. So I know that you and I have been working on a program for about a year now called Demystify Your Transition, and I'm gonna let you describe it, but I mean, I think that one of the tenets that you and I have always had is you don't know what you don't know. So until you sit down and have these conversations, you know, you may not even know what questions you should be asking. Can you talk a little bit about Demystify Your Transition, who you designed that for, and how you access that, and sort of rather than a large sort of one-on-one session, and the fact that, you know, we have that archive and how people can get a hold of that?
Absolutely. Demystify Your Family's Transition came about when I realized that the soldiers are more in the know than the family. And oftentimes the family doesn't understand what's happening throughout the transition, which causes a lot of stress. So if you don't know something, it's a lot scarier than if you do know, right? Because what you know you can face and you can plan for, but if it's just a big vast void out there, then it makes it way more difficult to deal with. And then it causes conflict within the relationships, because you're not telling me anything and you're nagging me, and all of those things can happen as well. So through that, the very first one that I decided that we should talk about was the emotional impact on the family and the member of a transition. We talked about loss. CJ, one of our flows, was with us, and she did a wonderful talk about explaining how it can impact every member of the family, not just the soldier, because like Chris said, it's not just the soldier that's transitioning, it's a lifestyle for us as well. And it's a big change. You lose your community, a lot of times, and your mores and your traditions and things like that go by the wayside. And then I brought in the national VFP coordinator, who talked about the program, how it came about, how we run it. It's not a static thing. It's always growing, respecting the needs of our clientele. So if we find something, they will work to help to mitigate whatever that problem is. So there's that. And then we had OSIS in to explain about operational stress injury, social support, and how they can, people can access it, and what the program is about, and to just kind of, how do I want to say, to the word's not in my head, but just to let people know that if they start here, they can go, like if they move, the support's still going to be there for them. And then we had employment service in talking about, looking for a job. Sometimes the member is injured to the point where they're not going to be able to work. So, how to look through that, and if somebody's been at home for a long time, how they can job search and get a resume and all of those things. And then financial well-being is always, always, always a concern, right? I'm not going to be making the same money. It's hard on the civilian side. We all know jobs don't always pay as well as the military does. They're not as stable as the military. And what you did in the military, especially if you're releasing on a medical, you may not be able to do on the civilian side. So working with what you have and figuring that piece out before you get to the point where it's like, okay, so I'm gonna lose my car and my house because I just can't afford it on what we're doing. And the other, education and career planning, was another one that we had with BPSO, and we had Melissa Frisk in, and we're talking about like pre-release, what the BPSO can do, and then post-release, what Melissa and her group, Adult Education, can do, because there's often a lot of money involved that you can go back to school. So your career planning with respect to that. We also talked about wills, because we don't think about that, or we don't like to think about that, because we're talking about endings and nobody likes that. So that's really, really important to talk about, and to have a review of your will at different points, different milestones in your life. You get married, you have children, you get divorced, look at your will, because the last thing you want is for your ex-spouse to get everything and your current family not to get anything because you didn't change your will. So, and then we had Wounded Warriors was the last one that we did. It's amazing the work that they do with ill and injured soldiers, the mental health supports that they provide. It's 100% circle. They help employers to understand, they help children, they help spouses, they help members. I love their program. So
I think the other difference with your program is a lot of your seminars are also interested to the member who's releasing as well. It's not just the family. Yeah. So I think Chris is like, there's a lot
absolutely.
Of families, but yours is really sort of for that everybody.
For both, yeah.
And if you've missed them, if you've missed one of those Demystify Your Transition sessions, they're all archived. So if you think that would have been really interesting, I wish I would have, been able to see that session on Wheels. Send Louise an email. I'm going to put her address down, and we'll be able to see if we can get your recording of that. We have talked about medical release, 3B, back and forth. I, as a family member, may have no idea how my partner is releasing. And that seems very confusing. And they might think, okay, I don't even know where I would start. Do I call Chris? Do I call Louise? Louise, what would you tell somebody who had that question? Just call one of us.
It doesn't matter. There is no wrong door. Chris and I have known each other for what, 20 years now, lady? Yeah. And we have a really good rapport.
Since they were infants.
We were children. We grew up together. So yeah, I mean, we talk back and forth. She sends me information. We talk about clients. If somebody comes through the door and they're not a 3B release, I will definitely, pick up the phone and say, hey, Chris, I have somebody here. Do you have time? When can I send them? Do you want to talk to them?
So it's not going to be like, hey, it's not me, call this number and hang up. They're going to make sure that you actually get to the other person. They're going to make sure that connection happened. And I don't think anybody is going to be upset that you called the wrong person. They're just going to be so happy that you called.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Because like I said, there's no wrong door. We're all really connected. It's as big as the base is, it's a very small community, right? So yeah.
And also, if you're thinking about going somewhere else, still call one of these people, and they're going to see if they can connect you to people in their new community. Like, reach out. Those connections are easy enough to make on our side because we know all the players, and it's going to make your life a lot easier no matter where you land if you already have those connections in place. If someone wants to call you, how do they find you? If someone's sort of interested in talking more about their transition, Louise, if they're like a releasing member, if they've already released, they're a family member, how do they get a hold of you?
The best way is through my email, and then leave your phone number and I can call you back.
And that's VFP at PetawawamFRC.com. Chris,
And
how does somebody find you?
I would say the same, email. And I'm sure you're going to put that in the comments, Julie. And then my phone number is always attached to my email signature block. But for folks, if they want to write it down real quick, my email is quigley.christine@cfmws.com.
So I will put that into the comments below. I'm also going to put the link if you are interested in registering for that first session of the transition. It's not just a posting. I'm going to put the link to a page on our website, cfmws.ca. It's going to give an outline of the workshop and give you contact information if you want to actually go through, register for that session and find out a little bit more. Thank you both for joining us today. I really appreciate it. The information is out there. And I think that if anything, that's sort of one of the things that we want to sort of talk about. Oftentimes we feel isolated and we're going through this, but a lot of people have gone through this. They may not be exactly the same, but there's a lot of common experiences. So like we want to make sure that people know you're not going through this alone, and there's support that's available if you need it. So please make that call. We are going to be back in 2 weeks with another fireside chat. So stay tuned and thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.
Bye.